My name is Ross Lucas. I'm a theatre maker and I interview other theatre makers. So, Estanaya is on the channel today and we talk about stage design. We not only unpack what a stage design is and how one can be conjured in relation to a piece of theatre, but also we talk about the off ramps that designers can go into. So, she works for an event based company and we delve into academia and whether the experience served her actual experience when she graduated. So do enjoy and click to subscribe. Hello, Estanaya. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for meeting me today to talk on the channel, especially on a Sunday as well. It's Sunday
Mm,
today, isn't it? And it's 11 o'clock. I've got my coffee.
yeah. Same. I had one just a second ago.
So you're going to talk to us about stage design.
Yes.
But first of all, tell us who you are. How do you define yourself? Are you stage designer, and what's your kind of job description currently?
So, I would class myself as a designer. I was freelance previously, doing like theatre design and trying to kind of branch out like anywhere where design is kind of needed. So whether that's in like fashion shows or short films, like I was trying to branch myself out as like much as possible, like trying to just like soak it all in. So yeah, designer at heart. And I also now work at Wonderworks, which is still very design related. They work in events, and but I don't think that me working like a full-time job now is going to like stop me from doing design stuff in the future, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Because I guess if you have a nice cushion Monday to Friday, which is also related to your, like you say, the design that's in your heart,
Hmm.
that's really actually quite nourishing, isn't it? Because I myself, I have on occasion taught secondary education school teachers to use the arts in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I find that really nourishing. It's not really related to my work, but it's
Yeah.
another kind of off ramp that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
helps pay the rent.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about the first question I was going to ask you. Tell us about stage design or design in general. What was it that brought you to it? How did you get there? What does it mean to you? That type of thing.
Um, Design is it's very interesting how I got there, because in some ways, if I hadn't, in my mind, if I hadn't taken certain paths, I probably wouldn't be designing, basically. And I say that because I started with like doing my A levels, and I was very like, I knew I was going to do something art related. It was just more of like, what is that art thing? And I think in the back of my mind, I think design was like the thing, but I just didn't have the word for it. Like I didn't know like, oh, that's what I wanted to do. So when I started applying for university, I was actually ended up applying for the wrong things. I think I just assumed that, okay, I like theatre, let me just go in that direction. Like I'm sure I'll figure it out. Luckily, it kind of all worked out in the end. So by the time I was in first year, we kind of got to like try everything, and I felt like slightly gravitated towards design. I was thinking, oh, like this is kind of interesting. Like I think this would be like a cool thing to do like all the time. And then that's ended up being the thing that I specialized in. But if someone had told me like before at the beginning of like my, I guess, journey towards design, I wouldn't have thought that, because I kind of went in thinking, oh, I'll be a scenic artist, like I'm good at painting, I'm good with my hands, like etc. So that's kind of like how I got to it. In terms of what it means to me, it probably kind of means everything, because in in my head, like I'm always constantly thinking of like, oh, how would this story be interested like in different environments? Or it's always interesting how you have an idea and you kind of like bring it to life, like for other people to experience. um
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, basically.
No, it's a hard question to answer, but just thinking back to myself when I look back when I was younger and I would perform in front of my family or whatever, or make productions in my garden. It's like, well, yeah,
Mm,
of course I was a performer. Of course I was going to be interested in direction. It's those little instincts that are inside you.
mm,
I think Jim Carrey says something like that. Your ambition kind of chooses you, not the other
yeah.
way around, as it were. So is it
Mm.
the actual is it the effect that you can have on the onlooker through your design that you like?
I think, yeah, I guess that's one part of it. It's the effect that it can have on people and how they, and in a way, like what I kind of like is that I like to allow people just to interpret the space on their own as well. I never want to give people like a kind of like this is the space, this is what it has to be. It can, for me, it's always been a thing of, well, this is the space, but you're allowed to kind of like make it your own as a onlooker as well. So I kind of like how lots of people, even though I'll see like one thing, I'm like, this is what it is. People will always see like different things, like, oh, I thought it was this. I was like, yeah, well, it's not that. It's not that. It's just like what you're kind of perceiving it as.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always interested in the education of the arts, and I always have this really big question over it, saying how much can we really teach artists um,
Mm,
in an education environment? So when you
mm-hmm.
graduated,
Yeah.
looking back, was there anything you thought, I wish I'd have been told that, or there was something you required? You know, it's not in anybody's fault. It's not your university's fault.
Yeah.
Actually, if I went back, or if I was a lecturer, I would add
Mm.
this in.
I think I would. It's quite a hard question. I think I was given a fairly good foundation. However, I would probably say like networking would be, even though that's not something you can really teach, but maybe tips of ways to try and get in contact with people, or uh, ways of like just not shying away from just like emailing someone, just like kind of putting yourself out there. I think that's a thing that, because when you're in uni, you're so consumed by like what you're doing and trying to just like get through uni and do your stuff. So I think networking is kind of like key, especially in the beginning. I just kind of like went in like head first. Like as soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm just gonna like do it, because if I don't, getting these contacts, just meeting people like anyway, is going to get harder if, like the more you put it off, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like the entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the idea that you've also got to manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was speaking to a friend who moved to New York recently on the channel, and one of the things that he brought up, he said the difference in America and New York is that people will go up to the famous and say, "I want to work with you." Or
Mm,
in the UK, he said, "We don't do that."
mm,
And also, he spoke about the class system as well. He says it doesn't really exist in the same way in New York than the way it does in London. And the fact that you
mm.
seem to have this pool that is at the imagined top, and you know, you and I are at the imagined bottom or whatever. It's a fascinating little thing that you just cited, that talking to other people,
Yeah,
I guess, and saying, "Hey, I exist."
yeah, yeah. That's basically it. Like I've done, I think like last year, I just, or not even last year, just like constantly while I was freelance, I was just like constantly emailing people. If I could like, either through social media, I would like tweet at people, or like DM them through Instagram. But usually I felt like email felt a bit more professional. So I tend to go for
Mm.
through email, unless it was like I really want to do something with this person, etc. And sometimes like it would work. You would send out like 10 emails and you might hear back from one, but then that one actually would give you experience, something that you might not have had if you didn't like
Mm.
do all those emails, you know.
Yeah. So, if there were any bits of advice for somebody who's graduating, first you would say definitely start to talk to people and connect.
Yeah,
Question in some.
yeah.
Is there anything else?
um I would just kind of say, it's probably really vague and I guess not really helpful, but to just go for it, and like just start somewhere, like as soon as you kind of finish, because I feel like once you have a little bit of a foundation, even if you only know like 5 people, you're always going to be in contact with those people, and they will lead to other things, even though it may not feel like it at the time. You'll feel like, oh, I've only done like 1 or 2 jobs that aren't like from out of uni, but then you can always like talk to your friends that are from your class, talk to other actors, or even if you didn't speak to that many other people who weren't on your course, just like email them, message them, like, hey, I want to do something interesting. Are you available? Are you interested? So I guess probably constant, maybe like communication with other people who you may not have necessarily spoken to, and to just kind of like dive in, basically.
Yeah.
There's like kind of no other way to I wouldn't want to say sugarcoat it, but you just kind of have to, in my experience, what I did, to just like go for it. And I found that that kind of even led to me being to where I am now, is that if I hadn't just like gone for it and just went out like on my own, I probably wouldn't be working at Wonderworks now, because they've probably seen that, oh, I've done this is what I've done, this is how far I've got. Let's just see like what she can do now, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like you're kind of playing the long game, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Wonderworks is pretty big, right?
Yeah, they are pretty big. I was pretty intimidated when because I got in contact with them through my brother, who like knew, like someone knows someone, like, oh, I know this person who does like kind of event stuff. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I wanted to get into events, but I hadn't been like getting anywhere in that like department. I was like, okay, let me go in and like ask for advice. And like we set up a meeting and I went in, and they're like, yeah, they like gave me advice, kind of went through what they did, and they like offered me like a job. And I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that, but at the time I was like, well, my freelance stuff wasn't really going anywhere, and I was getting a bit like frustrated. I was like, oh, I want to still do stuff, but then right now it's not really happening. And then so I accepted the offer, and even from being there like a couple months, I've learned so much, especially just with less like, because I would never draw straight into AutoCAD. I would always like draw on paper and then maybe do a model and then do AutoCAD. It was kind of like the last step for me. But this time they do all their stuff like on like CAD. They do lots of CAD drawing. So
Mm.
yeah, it was definitely, it's still an experience, and it kind of came at a good time because of like COVID and stuff. So I was like quite fortunate to still like have a job, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also it's testament to your previous work that you got that job, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
testament to your portfolio, your bureau of work, your photos, etc.
Mm.
Um, just as a bonus question, then, because theatre is in your heart, how
Yeah.
do you translate a stage design when you read a play or when you're working on
Mhm.
something new, is it with the director or writer, whatever? How do you translate that design into something whole? What makes, what do you pull threads of the themes or what? Because I looked at some of your photos which I'll put on this interview.
Mm.
What's
Mhm.
you go, ah, that's it?
Um, I would say obviously every project's a little bit different, but I tend to start with like, I read through the script and I'll just write down either words or feelings or thoughts that I like initially feel when I read the script. Obviously that can include any themes or any sometimes even like depending on like how big the show is, it could be pinpointed on a particular character, or like the essence of them, or the relationship, if it's just like two people on stage, like what that is like being said in the script. And then after that I immediately moved to like Pinterest and images, because that's for me as well, because I did photography, that's like the best way for me to kind of build a literal like mood board of what kind of direction or different directions I can go in, and then I kind of share those with the director or the writer, and then we'll just kind of like they'll basically point out like what kind of they feel like is the right thing for them, and then that kind of then like rockets off into, oh, this is kind of what we're going for. And I pull from photos, and sometimes I even like pull from my own experiences, which sounds a bit weird, but an example would be when I did like a project in uni and we did West Side Story. and it wasn't like a real like show, but it was like kind of a concept design. And I like put mine in a skate park, but I don't know if that like that's probably weird to people. Like why would you do that? But I'm drawing from my area because there's like a skate park near us, and you think like rival gangs and how that could
Mm.
be like encompassed in something that's more modern, but something that's still very like fun to actually like enjoy like the space that you're in. Essentially,
Yeah.
it's always like kind of pulling from different either experiences if it's something that I really relate to, or definitely through photos and even like film or like TV. Sometimes you can, if there's like a certain mood that might capture exactly what you're looking for, and you kind of then pull these pieces together to make a at least like a concept design essentially.
Yeah, it's funny you describing that is exactly the same way I make theatre. If I'm making original theatre, it's like you choose your theme, you choose your
Mm,
topic that you want to discuss, and off you go. You find
yeah,
your poetry, you find your films, you find your images, you find your poems, your stories, etc., and then you just the collage feed,
yeah.
and then you meet other artists, and then it becomes this and it becomes that, doesn't it?
Mm.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much
No, it's
for
okay. It's no
doing this
problem.
morning on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, it's all right.
Right, and it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.